What makes a great boomer shooter? What are the qualities that make these retro-inspired FPSs so much fun and popular? Is it just old-school mechanics and graphics, or is there something more? In today's video, we're going to explore that question by highlighting 7 of the best boomer shooters to come out in recent years, each exemplifying a core quality of what I feel makes a boomer shooter, old school shooter, retro shooter, whatever you want to call them, great. Before we begin though, this video was made in collaboration with Digifile, who just launched their Boomer Shooter Blueprint sale, bundling together the 7 games I picked for this video. That's right, yours truly helped curate this sale. So if you haven't had a chance to play these 7 games and want them for the price of 1, be sure to use my link down in the description or in my pinned comment. And full transparency, as an affiliate, I do get a percentage of the sales, which directly supports this channel. So a huge thank you if you participate. One last thing before we get cracking, this is not some strict, these are the qualities every shooter must have sort of thing. No. It's all just my opinion. Truly a big love letter to my favorite gaming niche. But if there's a quality that you look for in these games that I don't mention, or if you want to shout out some of your personal favorite titles, be sure to put them down in the comments. And with that, let the boom begin. Kicking things off, a core thing that makes a boomer shooter great is the shooting. Yeah, real big surprise there, I know. Shooting is the primary way players interact with these games, and you want that interaction to feel good, visceral, and most of all, fun. When the player clicks that mouse or squeezes that controller trigger, their chosen on-screen arsenal needs to respond quickly, accordingly, and in a way that sprinkles dopamine all over their brain. It shouldn't be a mere bang, but an explosive, meaty sledgehammer punch that makes them feel like a powerful badass. With a symphony of twitchy gun animations and sound effects to immerse and complement. Although it's not just about the boom, enemies have to react in order to give players a sense of payoff. Gory damage animations have been the natural go-to since the beginning. A simple blood splatter, a quick jerk of pain, or more elaborate stuff like whole fleshy pieces flying off. No matter how you do it, having satisfying visual and audio feedback for enemy damage is a necessity to let players feel like their clicks are doing something and reward them for it. And the very best boomer shooters out there are beautiful examples of what I'm talking about. Big Daddy Dusk's weaponry is beefy and booming with basic but effective enemy damage, and lots of jibs. The guns of Proteus feel like sledgehammers and allow you to turn enemies into puddles, painting the environment as well as your weaponry with raspberry jelly, as I told my young niece once when I suddenly realized she was watching me play. Whoops. The truth is, all the games featured in this video have excellent shooting. They have to, or else I wouldn't feature them. But there are 2 particular titles from recent years that I feel went above and beyond with their gunplay and overall combat mechanics, with some delightfully nasty feedback. (2025's) Beyond Citadel, sequel to the Citadel, has phenomenal gunplay. Each weapon feels chunky and powerful, and the game's mixture of run and gun with tactical mechanics lend the experience some visceral immersion and challenge. And the gore effects, while infamous for how absurdly graphic they are, they even make me a little queasy, do bring some satisfying feedback that makes the game hard to walk away from. It's sharply honed FPS combat that embraces what made classic shooting so fun and tries to push it further in its own way. My favorite aspect about it is that it lets the player tailor it to be the FPS experience they want. They can keep the mechanics classic old school run and gun, or they can lean them more tactical and realistic. Realistic in big quotes there. Specifically with the multi-step reloading, where they will have to manually take out an empty clip, put in a new one, and pull the slide, as well as fix gun jams that will happen due to the weapon degradation. It takes some getting used to, but when you do, it adds a satisfying and challenging layer to the combat that really enhances the overall experience. But the real beauty is, no matter how you play Beyond Citadel, you're going to get one of the more solid and engrossing FPS experiences to hit the indie market. My other example, though, is hands down some of the most enjoyable combat I've experienced in a boomer shooter. My god, Cultic is so good. This crunchy throwback takes huge inspiration from Monolith's 1997 classic, Blood, dynamite bundles and all, and mixes it with the sensibilities of survival horror titles like Resident Evil 4, and the result is a beastly title of gruesome yet stylish combat that is pure joy. The shooting feels snappy and furious. The guns have a rapid, tactile pop to them that makes them a simple pleasure to fire. And the payoff is enemies that more or less pop and explode with blood splatter and gore, as if they were water balloons full of chunky goo. It also helps that it has easily some of the most satisfying headshots in a first-person shooter. There are so many aspects I can gush about with Cultic. Its visuals, music, level design, the other layers of its combat system beyond the bullets and shells, but it's the bedrock of its incredible shooting mechanics that makes all its aspects congeal. It's the thing that keeps you glued to this game and coming back for more. And it's what makes Cultic not just one of the best boomer shooters out there, but one of the best first-person shooters out there, period. Now, a keyword you're going to hear throughout this video is feel. First-person shooters are all about the feel, and that is especially true in Boom Shoot world. As we discussed, the shooting feeling good is huge, but good feeling movement is paramount to a great boomer shooter. Character movement has to be tight, fast, fluid, and most importantly, effortless. Fast, arcadey movement has been a defining aspect of first-person shooters since day one. And as the genre evolved through the 90s and began incorporating jumping and verticality with the dawn of full 3D, it would spawn advanced traversal techniques that would inspire speedrunning communities and whole movement-focused subgenres within FPSs. But despite the genre deepening and branching during this time, the core tenets of movement that made the early titles so fun always remained at the center, a foundation to be built upon. And jumping to the mid to late 2010s, when the boomer shooter scene was in its infancy, the prominent early titles brought back and embraced the movement mechanics of foundational 90s FPSs. Dusk we have to reference again, because it brought back the speed and verticality of Quake and sharpened it to a high degree, making you feel like a dagger flying through the air, or a missile that can do flips. Whereas Project Warlock would dust off the horizontal simplicity of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom to an equally sharp degree. And as the boom scene flourished, titles would embrace recent FPS movement mechanics made popular in the mainstream. Wall running, for instance, and power sliding. Ultra Kill really takes the cake here, bringing fast, frantic, and stylish traversal to Quake's mechanics. And Turbo Overkill is one of my gold standards of FPS movement in the boomer scene, beautifully incorporating modern traversal mechanics to old-school shooter gameplay. I freaking love this game. But the main title I want to highlight is a recent gem that is an unusual game that some of you might feel is an unusual pick. Perhaps not the sort of thing that comes to mind when you think of your typical boomer shooter, but when it comes to the qualities of movement I look for in these games, tight, fast, fluid, and effortless, this game is a shining example.
Dear Diary. Dear Diary. Did I tell you that I saw a bird?
I Am Your Beast is definitely its own beast of a shooter. Playing as an unhinged, yet zen, special agent, you must speed through wilderness courses, eliminating enemies as fast as possible to achieve the highest grade, using whatever you can get your hands on, guns, knives, sticks, or whatever is in the environment, like beehives, bear traps, and classic red barrels. Putting its presentation and structure aside, I Am Your Beast mechanically is a fairly straightforward shooter. Good old running and gunning, with the added flair of being able to chuck your guns and knives. However, the movement is the secret sauce of what makes this game work, as it lends a smooth yet rapid flow that is easy for the player to grasp. While there is momentum that has to be maintained and a slight feeling of weight, there is little friction to running and sprinting. Sliding is equally smooth and effective, and the game handles climbing and balancing on branches, as if it's locking you into a rail, leaving the player to focus on combat. And of course, the combat mechanics feel just as effortless. To succeed in I Am Your Beast, you need to be in a total muscle memory flow state, because this game can get very challenging, especially if you're aiming to get the highest grades and complete all the bonus objectives. There's high stakes in hitting your targets quickly and accurately and taking the most efficient course, which is why it's paramount that the movement be second nature. It needs to react as fast as the player thinks, and in that, I Am Your Beast succeeds in spades. Now, while it's easy to get into the nitty-gritty of FPS mechanics, at the end of the day, one of the key qualities of a great boomer shooter is simplicity. At the core of every first-person shooter is one of the oldest and foundational styles of gameplay: point, shoot. The simple but enjoyable function that helped pioneering classics like Space Invaders gobble up quarters in the late 70s. Early FPS devs were gamers who were raised on pick-up-and-play arcade experiences like Space Invaders. And while they were pioneering a viewpoint that was innovative and advanced for the time, they wanted the gameplay to be easy to pick up and instantly fun, while also lending a formidable challenge to the player. Simple to learn, hard to master, just like the types of games they loved and grew up on. It was id Software's focus on keeping the gameplay simple to grasp that not only helped Wolfenstein 3D become a phenomenon, but kicked off the FPS genre as we know it. And throughout the 90s, while id and other developers would deepen the complexity, the simple arcade ethos remained at the core, and still remains at the core of today's boomer shooters and really all first-person shooters broadly. While many of the retro-inspired shooters we enjoy today aim to broaden the mechanics, experiment with and combine other gameplay types and structures, the very best titles don't lose focus of that core, simple pick-up-and-play arcade ethos. In fact, some of the most standout titles solely concentrate on it and aim for a pure old-school shooter experience. And there is one title that I think is a beautiful example of just that. Mullet Mad Jack is pure adrenaline and insanity. An explosion of anime-inspired visuals, slathered in neon goodness, and dripping with violence and arcade splendor. A cyberpunk satire on our chronically online society, spoofing short attention spans and shameless influencers, dressed up in a hyper-stylized retro 80s utopia, or perhaps dystopia.
Sir, initializing our live stream show. Looking for a protagonist.
Guided by a smooth-talking streamer, you play as the protagonist, Mullet Mad Jack, who must rampage through a skyscraper floor by floor as fast as he can to save a beautiful influencer from sadistic robo-billionaires. All the while, live streaming his synthwave carnage to a ravenous live audience, their love and approval keeping him alive. Literally, the audience only has a 10-second attention span, and if our mulleted hero doesn't demolish a robo-goon within the 10 seconds, it's game over.
The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today.
Mullet Mad Jack is pure arcade charm that is very easy to get into. You're just running in a straight line, making sure your bullets connect and body gets around the many obstacles, made effortless by the strong shooting and tight movement. Simple to learn indeed, but it's that 10-second time limit that makes it hard to master. And believe you me, you will fail many, many times playing this game. Players not only have to be fast, they also have to be efficient, work off of instinct, and really pay attention to warning signs and patterns, which can be difficult as this game loves to distract you. This also puts a lot of weight on which upgrades you select as you complete floors, stemming from different weapons to perks like bullets piercing through multiple enemies and bigger explosions, with some humorous ones thrown in there like the protagonist spewing out more cheesy one-liners. It's all the qualities of a great boomer shooter concentrated in a swift key bump straight to the brain, and it is so damn fun. And it's definitely not afraid to mix things up, throwing the time limit aside for epic boss fights that are inventive and challenging, and chucking out some fascinating curveballs for the narrative. In all, it's a game that takes the simple foundation of the genre and heightens it to a magnificent extreme, making it one of the more charming and original titles in the boom shoot scene. This next section covers a quality I'd not only look for in boomer shooters, but all FPSs broadly. When FPSs first came on the scene and allowed players to see through the eyes of their protagonist, it created a feeling of immersion unseen in the medium that blew people's minds. Players now felt like they were inside a world, rather than spectating it from afar. And as the genre grew and progressed, its developers kept pushing this sense of immersion in both technical and artistic ways. Doom trapped players in a demon-infested space base, terrifying them with its dark atmosphere and making them feel a palpable sense of dread and, well, doom. The seedy movie theaters, convenience stores, and fast food joints depicted in Duke Nukem 3D's version of Los Angeles made its levels feel like tangible, functional places. The top-secret labs of Half-Life's Black Mesa might be iconic, but the streets of City 17 and Half-Life 2 brought the weight of oppression and subjugation. Immersion is key for any first-person shooter. And so, when I sit down with any FPS, one of my big questions is, what is the world you are putting me in, and what are you doing to make me believe it? It's a question that makes demands on the game's technical fidelity, but more so its art direction, sound design, and storytelling. All of the shooters featured in this video are beautiful examples of what I'm talking about. Beyond Citadel transports you to an angelic future where, despite its beauty, just feels wrong and depraved. Anyone who has ever nervously hiked through the woods at night with only a flashlight will be brought back to such memories in the rural terror of Cultic. I Am Your Beast puts you in the mind of a hitman that just wants to be left alone to his birdwatching. And Mullet Mad Jack sucks you into a hyperactive cyberpunk anime. But for this section, I'm going to highlight two titles that shine in their immersive qualities for different reasons. One, because it effectively transports you to an established and beloved world using mechanics to place you in a specific role, and another that transports you to a place you'll likely be repelled by. Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun is a boomer shooter take on the 40k universe, beautifully melding the grim-dark future of unending war with the mechanics and retro charm of classics like Doom and Quake. Many of the 40k licensed games do a brilliant job of depicting its universe, and Bolt Gun sits comfortably among them. The levels are massive, with towering factories the size of cities and gargantuan spaceships, lending the absurd sense of scale found within the 40k universe, although in truth merely scratching the surface of it, with architecture that is cold and industrial, but also intricate and gothic, constantly reminding the player of the blurred lines between technology and religion in the 41st century. And the retro rendering of sprite-based enemies and pixelated walls kind of lends the sense that you've been shrunken down into a Warhammer tabletop game, with highly detailed models and miniatures to fight. However, Bolt Gun takes a few steps further with its immersion, not just making you feel like you're in its world, but are actually inhabiting one of the Ultramarines. For those unaware, the Marines of the 40k universe wear power armor that weighs upwards of 400 pounds, but also allows them to move at incredible speeds. You can think of them like the Juggernaut from X-Men, or like a bulldozer that moves like a sports car that can also shoot you. It's no wonder some of the enemies in this game scream at the sight of you. Auroch used subtle but effective audio and visual techniques to convey the weight and power of these walking tanks. With every footstep, your screen shakes and thick armor clanks with the earth rumbling under you, and sprinting will make you feel like a thunderous, unstoppable freight train. And naturally, this immense weight and speed is reflected in the gameplay. You are able to dash tackle, which will liquefy low-level enemies, and falling from a tall enough height will splatter a foe unlucky to be standing under you. It's simple stuff really, but awesome in that its mechanics used to characterize your avatar, to make you feel like a powerful super soldier, like you're actually in the armor. And at the end of the day, isn't that one of the pure joys of video gaming, inhabiting people we aren't? But if it's one boomer shooter title in recent years that I feel effectively placed me in a well-realized, memorable, engrossing, atmospheric, and fleshed out world, so to speak, it's Incision. Incision is not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm sure some of you watching are going, "Ugh, you picked Incision? Why?" But that sort of reaction, I would argue, is a testament to what makes it so effective and immersive. Incision is a post-apocalyptic horror where a city has been taken over by a cosmic entity known as the Growth, a biomechanical being that has enveloped the metropolis in putrid flesh and rusting metal, turning its populace into disfigured creatures with its twisted organic factories. It's the Borg from Star Trek put through the lens of David Cronenberg body horror. You could also say it looks like what Nine Inch Nails sounded like in the early albums. It's a disgusting game. As I described in my review of it, the levels are like an open wound festering in the sun, but it's also one of the most well-realized FPS worlds I've encountered in some time. The atmosphere is thick and really gets under your skin. You can almost feel the infected stickiness of its maps, can almost smell the rot and feel the warm steam rising from the fleshy floors. And the PS1 style rendering, I would say, heightens this revolting texture, making everything come across more harsh, scabbed, and rusty. However, it's not entirely grotesque for the sake of it. I would argue there is a logic and motivation to it all. While vague, the narrative lends this sense that you are traveling through the innards of some type of omnipotent being, as if you're a sort of virus armed to the teeth rampaging within its guts. And to that, you get this sense of how this flesh factory operates, making it even more horrific. As I said, this game is not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fair enough. It's truly for the sickos. However, its immersive qualities are undeniable. One's own revulsion to it is evidence enough. A major, defining aspect of boomer shooter games and the culture around them is, of course, nostalgia. At its very core, this is a scene dedicated to paying tribute to the classic FPS gameplay design of the 90s, as well as the retro aesthetics of that era. While retro graphics are not a requirement for boom shoots, contemporary graphics are more than welcome. Many of the prominent titles creatively draw from the aesthetics of early shooters, the initial 2.5D days of Wolfenstein, the chunky polygon era of Quake, and some titles do a mixture of the old and new, while others put the pixels and polygons aside for more unique visual styles that tip their hats to the old days. But something I've always stressed is that this tribute to the old ways isn't just window dressing, it's an attitude, claiming that despite age, this style of first-person shooter is not obsolete. It's still fun, it's still relevant, and still has a lot to offer, that the old ways never stop being good. It's a challenge, really, aimed at the larger gaming community that often uses age to assign value. And some boom shoot devs have gone the extra mile in this challenge. Something that has fascinated me are the devs that have not only embraced the retro aesthetic, but also the software that originally created it. Ion Fury was a trailblazer this way, being the first commercially released game in 20 years to use the build engine, specifically the eDuke 32 source port, and Wrath and Doombringer were built in Dark Places, a souped-up version of the Quake 1 engine. But there is one recent standout title, built in legacy tech, and harnessing nostalgia for something new and amazing. Sulaco is a work of art. It's a fast, pulse-pounding FPS with tactical gunplay and movement mechanics, feeling more akin to Monolith's Sphere, while also featuring exploration, puzzle-solving, and storytelling that takes inspiration from titles like System Shock and Half-Life. The game places you in the besieged space station Sulaco, where you must battle against armed insurgents. The station is an immensely detailed and tangible-feeling place. Corridors are damaged and demolished with sparks and explosions. Glass and other debris blast into the air during firefights. The pink blood of shot enemies splatter and drip everywhere. Voxel furnishings, water coolers, computers, vending machines, you name it, populate the many halls and rooms. Water droplets sprinkle on screen from broken pipes. It's a visual feast. But effects and assets aren't all that makes Sulaco feel tangible. You can tell the developer thought out how people lived on this station, what their day-to-day was like, what the culture was like, what people and families were doing before the invasion interrupted them. And what makes Sulaco so impressive is that all of this detail, all of this art, all of this imagination was built in GZ Doom, which, if anyone needs a reminder, is essentially the decades-old id Tech 1 engine that brought us to the demon-infested halls of Doom way back in '93. And before anyone in the GZ Doom community yells at me, it should be stressed that GZ Doom is a highly updated version of id Tech 1, with a host of modern enhancements. But, make no mistake, at its source is still the OG Doom tech that John Carmack brought to us mere mortals all those years ago, and the fact that it can still be used to build something like Sulaco is jaw-dropping. Honestly, the developer could have designed this in a more contemporary state-of-the-art engine and it would have been just as good. But the fact that they chose GZ Doom to build this proves that the shiniest, newest, processor-pushing tech does not inherently equal quality gaming, and that code, written decades ago, can still be harnessed and pushed to create incredible and novel experiences. Plus, you have to appreciate the sheer amount of artistry and talent on display to render all this game's intricacies with such an engine. Sulaco slides fearlessly into the future while holding the past close to its chest. It's nostalgia utilized for the new. So what makes a great boomer shooter? Well, if you ask me, it's bombastic shooting coupled with fast, responsive movement mechanics that's quick to pick up and hard to master. It's an embracing of and defense of nostalgia that harnesses retro design to not only immerse you in new worlds, but also build towards the next big thing. It's a blurry line of what defines a boomer shooter compared to your typical FPS. And in truth, the nickname has always been tongue-in-cheek with a wink. But anybody who loves them will tell you, boomer shooters are a style, an attitude, and represent a passionate community that at the end of the day expresses unending love for pure, fun gaming. To remind, if any of the 7 main games in this video looked awesome to you and you haven't had a chance to play them, consider snagging them in the Boomer Shooter Blueprint sale by using my link in the description and pinned comment. Seriously, it's a hell of a deal. Thank you for sticking with me through this video. I had a ton of fun making it, and I hope it kept you entertained. That's always the core goal. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and smack that bell. It's a huge help for the algorithm and getting my videos seen by more people. If you want to join my Discord, the link is down below, along with my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.